Good evening. It is Monday, November 10th, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. The first item on the agenda is a discussion item, 250 Turnpike Road, contractor yard building bond discussion. Want to bring us up to date?
Okay. So we recently received a request from Ferris Development Group, represented by Attorney George Bernard, for a request to reduce the bond that was provided during the storage facility permitting during the Christmas season, I think it was, in order for them to get a temporary certificate of occupancy. They had provided a $81,108 cash bond based on a letter that Ferris Development provided that covered landscaping, a gate, and fencing. I think it was 750 feet of fencing or 320 feet of fencing.
I don't remember the exact length. I apologize.
It's in the letter we have here. Anyway, since the new, so there's still a temporary occupancy permit on record. You probably need to check if it's expired or not. So we have an original site plan for the storage facility. And we now have a new site plan which supersedes the old one for the contractor's yard building project, which encompassed the whole site again. So some of the features, so let me back up. So after we had the temporary occupancy permit sign off from planning, we had finally gotten Niche on board to be the new town engineering consultant. And we asked them to go out and do an initial bond review because nobody had really independently vetted the items that you had identified. And so they came up with additional cost items, some of which may or may not still pertain.
Correct.
So we have the Ferris Development bond letter, and then we have Niche's initial bond review for comparison. So the issue here, I think, may be that if you're looking for a bond reduction, there are items that still need to be bonded in order to maintain or get your temporary certificate of occupancy in good shape so that you still have that. Okay. So in that sense, one of the things would be like the contractor's yard building isn't built yet. So do you bond that or do you not? It's questions like that. There was an item included on Niche's initial bond review about the front area in front of the building was supposed to be concrete from the original plans, but then it got accepted to be asphalt paved. And that was a substantial item. And there are some landscape items, whatever it says on the list there. So that's kind of where we're at with the status. So the planning board has to kind of figure out how to approach this now for this bond reduction request, because there are items other than the building that are still outstanding. But there are some items that are no longer part of the project. But they still need their temporary certificate of occupancy to be operating in the storage facility building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Should I kick it off?
You may.
All right. And thank you, Karina. That was very good. I'm always so impressed with how you can do that
Oh, stop.
based solely off memory. I will use my notes. So good evening, Chair Luttrell and members of the board. For the record, my name is George Bonan, Assistant General Counsel for Ferris Development Group, representing the applicant FD 250 Turnpike LLC. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding our request for a bond reduction for 250 Turnpike Road. By way of background, I'm going to reiterate some stuff that Karina had just said, but by way of background, in January of 2024, The applicant and this board entered into a bond agreement for security in the form of a cash bond in the amount of $81,108. That bond secured several specific improvements under the 2022 major site plan approval, which was issued on December 19th, 2022. Those improvements included 3 items only: the installation of a fence on the lower lot, installation of an access gate, and plantings and vegetation per the approval of landscape plan, per the approved landscape plan, I'm sorry. In March of this year, Niche Engineering prepared a bond review estimate listing the remaining work for the 2022 site plan with 2 years of 3% inflation and a 20% contingency to bring their total bond review to $112,936.41. As this board knows, in July of 2025, a new major site plan approval was issued for the property, the 2025 site plan, which supersedes the earlier 2022 site plan. As a result, several items included in the niche estimate no longer were part of the current approved plan or had already been completed. For example, the now obsolete items include the concrete pavement in the driveway, which Karina had mentioned. That was a significant cost or a significant estimate at around $46,000 and $46,805. A smaller one was pavement markings for the southern access aisle, about $13. Removal of a 6-foot chain link fence, about $9,100. And the installation of that same fence, about $28,500. And basically the 2 fence estimates were in the 2022 site plan. They were further, the fence, the southern side of the fence was further north. It ran alongside or ran on the pavement, the area between the pavement and the grass. The fence in the 2025 site plan is now located a little more south, aligning with an existing fence that surrounded the detention basin. So the current existing fence that's actually installed is in its correct location. If those items are removed from consideration and we apply the same inflation and contingency that the remaining that Niche used, the adjusted total is approximately $5,315.53. Accordingly, we respectfully request that the bond be reduced from $81,108 to $5,315.53, and that the remaining $75,792.47 be released back to the applicant. This request aligns the bond with the actual remaining work under the current approved plan as it relates to the self-storage facility, while maintaining an appropriate level of security for the town. I appreciate the board's time and consideration this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. So what you're saying is that there was the 2022 site plan and this bond allowed for the temporary occupancy, and you bonded the things that weren't complete from the 2022.
That's correct.
So now there's the 2025.
Yes.
So wouldn't the temporary occupancy require bonding for things that aren't complete with the 2025?
If the board chooses to apply it that way, but when the bond was applied to the 2022 site plan, it was done so with the understanding that it was for the temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage building. And there were things in the 2022 site plan that were required, that were still remaining, that needed to be done, i.e. the fence and concrete work and some plantings. Actually, the fence, the gate, and plantings, the concrete work hadn't been considered at that point. It was later considered during the niche bond review. But the spirit of that bond was for the self-storage facility. Now, you raise a good point, Chair Luttrell, and that is, shouldn't the town still keep the bond because there's still remaining work for the 2025 site plan? But there's also a separate structure that needs to be built there, which we will have to get a certificate of occupancy, or at least temporary certificate of occupancy at one point. And all the site work, all the items on the 2025 site plan will have to be addressed. I think even though it's one site, and this has been an issue that's been raised several times, even throughout the planning process, they are two different structures with two different COs. And the $80,000 or $81,000 bond was meant specifically for the self-storage facility, where if when down the road, we go to apply for a certificate of occupancy for the contractor's yard building, the board will have the opportunity to address what remaining work, if any, is still remaining. And at that point, I think it would be appropriate to readdress any sort of bond that was required. But there were really three items that I listed in my presentation today, and that's the concrete work, the fence, and the gate. And those three items basically entail the entire niche estimate. It's about 75,000 of niches. Actually, I'm sorry, it's more. It's about 84,000 of niches, 88,000 subtotal. The remaining amount is 20% contingency plus 2 years inflation. I think it makes most sense, and I think it's most fair if those items were no longer considered and a portion of the bond is returned to the applicant, because the town is still safe, so to speak, down the road when the applicant is ready to apply for their CO for the contractor's yard building.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks. Nice to see you again, George. So I'm inclined to agree in the sense that the spirit of what we put on for the certificate of occupancy was for the self-storage and to get that approved before the end of the year with the spirit of that opening. I guess my question is, so can you just go through the concrete? I know the three large items, right? The concrete pavement and driveway, the chain link fence removal, and the chain link fence installation. There is a fence there driving by. So is it, you've already done that, or because I know it's not, like you said, it's not in the place that it was originally going to be.
When we installed the fence, it was installed per the 2025 site plan, even though the 2025 site plan had not been approved yet. But because we didn't see it, it wasn't practical to install a fence pursuant to the 2022 site plan, knowing we were going to have to move it.
Okay.
So it's always been in the location as indicated in the 2025 site plan.
Okay. And then what happened with the concrete pavement and driveway? That turned to asphalt.
Correct, yes. And I have the two plans, the 2022 and 2025 site plan, if you'd like to see. And it's very,
Yeah, it might be helpful, I
Mhm.
think, just to look at it. You guys agree?
so there's just the site layout portions of both the 2022 and 2025 site plan. What I did was circle the three areas. This is the concrete work, and as you can see, it's reflected differently. Asphalt in the area, this is, and then it has some a dot pattern in between where the concrete's supposed to be. That's circle. This is the fence, which is gate, which is circle, no longer required. And then this is the fence in its original location, and it was never constructed in that location. That's why Mitch flagged it originally, because it didn't comply with the 2022. I don't think you really see the 2025 site plan, but you'll see that the fence runs all the way to the detention basin. This was already existing, this fence that surrounded the detention basin. And that fence, and then gone straight across has 2025 site plan asphalt. No, as you all know, no more gate, and the concrete requirement is no longer there. And I only point those out because they're just very, very obvious. And I think it's easy for the board.
Okay, so I think that, and then the other point is that the contractor's yard would need a separate certificate of occupancy. And if we do it in the spirit of why we put bonds on, it's so that you can complete it as we've requested and to make sure. You know, I will always say, we always appreciate when we go through a process and put a site plan forward, that the builders build what's on the site plan.
Of course.
And that has inevitably not happened with some of the developments here. So I think there's a bit of cautionary tale for us, and in the spirit of doing what's right and releasing some of those funds, I think what you've asked for seems reasonable for me.
Thank you.
But I also want to just for the record state, like, when we put a site plan on, we respectfully request that what's built is, so that when the as-bills come in, there aren't significant differences.
Absolutely. And Ms. Houlihan, I think you may agree, and Karina may chime in, but I've done my very best to make sure that we comply with every step of a site plan approval decision. If something's in the wrong place, I take it upon myself to make sure it's moved, i.e. the sign is being moved, by the way, tomorrow or the day after. So that's going to be a great thing. So I hope that you've seen that things have changed, so to speak, and that we're making good faith efforts to make sure that we're complying with all the town's bylaws.
Yeah, and I appreciate, I think your efforts are definitely seen inside this room. It's outside of this room that happens that are potentially beyond your control, beyond our control. But I am inclined to agree with what you're requesting.
Thank you.
Mr. Murray.
Hi, George. Good to see you.
You too.
So I'm trying to understand really splitting between the self-storage facility and the contractor's yard. So I'm aware today that you're going to be in front of the Concom coming up, having to do with septic and some issues before the Board of
Yes.
Health. And thinking ahead that, that potentially could mean, I know you're requesting like a tight tank or something's under consideration and discussion, and something's going to get ripped up somewhere. And so I'm just wondering, is that something that you see could be, that we wouldn't reduce the bond as much as you would want, because this is under the self-storage, because you are going to have to do work for safety purposes. And from what I've heard about the pedestrian bridge, it's tilting, as I think what I've heard. And so it sounds like something has to get done. I'm
Yes.
sure you're on it and you've
Mhm.
got your meetings all set up. I'm just wondering then, is that something that we would consider in this whole process?
Thank you. No, I don't think the bridge and the related septic issue would be subject to a bond. And the reason why I say that is we don't know when it's going to happen. The bridge is deteriorating. So our first concern is how do we deal with septic? Because there is a septic line currently suspended underneath the bridge. It has to be dealt with one way or the other. I think we've been working with Concom, of course, and the Board of Health to figure out the best way forward. We think, and this is kind of going beyond what I'm asking for here, but just to catch you up, we think the best thing to do is, given the low flows of septic generated at the self-storage facility, we create a tight tank, which would require pumping there like every 2 to 3 months, but there's no wetland impact. So that's what we're asking for. But either way, that's neither here nor there. What you're asking is, does that change require a bond being held and for the planning board to do anything? I don't think so. If there's a change to the site, when it happens, it'll be reflected in an as-built review or some sort of future modification to a site plan, but it wouldn't be subject to this site plan because it's something we're trying to prevent in the future, but it's not contemplated right now.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Belniak.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Thank
So just two things. One, just to clarify, so I understand, the idea is that because these are essentially two different mini projects, two different COs on one site, is to essentially separate out the monies for one and for the other. And because of that, because of the change in the site plan, that you're requesting the refund because it no longer reflects what you need to be bonded for.
Correct. As I said before, and I like to use the phrase, the spirit of it was when this bond was provided to the town, it was in essence in exchange for a temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage facility, which was approved as part of a 2022 site plan. Now, there's a 2025 site plan, which essentially is for the contractor's yard building. What causes a little confusion is all one site. So shouldn't the bond be applied to the whole site? If you want to be technical, yes, but that wasn't the understanding when we provided the cash bond for the temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage facility. I had made the point in saying when we construct the contractor's yard building, which was approved as part of the 2025 site plan, will have to come before the building department and maybe the board if a bond is required for temp CO at that point. So it offers, you can think of it as some sort of protection, but the two really should be separated because that's not what the original bond was meant to cover, so to speak.
The spirit, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. One question is, the 2025 site plan was approved by the planning board on July 14, and this is, in October 17 was when you had requested the bond reduction. Just curious, not being a detective here or whatever, just curious as to the 3 months, like 3 months is, there's, 5 digits of cash out there in 3 months. I was wondering why would not, you would not have like requested it sooner versus now?
Well, there's a few things. Yes, it was approved in July. There's a 20-day appeal period, so you have to wait for that. And frankly, we just wanted to make sure all our ducks were in a row before we requested this bond reduction. And we were planning on actually furthering the site plan by planting things, by planting vegetation, but just due to, I don't know, lack of resources or what there is, or what the issue is, the plantings not being available, we weren't able to get to it. We're hoping maybe we can get to it in the next couple of weeks. We've had our pre-construction meeting with Karina and the rest of the town officials, so we're actually good to go. But we just,
Okay.
we just didn't get around to it until now.
It was just curious, but yeah, thank you. That's it.
So just to clarify, you said the bond was just for the self-storage building, but it covered things in the storage lot also.
Absolutely. Yes. And planting specifically, and the fence and the gate.
So the bond was for the whole site plan.
The bond was for a temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage building. And that's what I mean when I say for the self-storage building.
But it covered the whole
It,
site.
it does cover the site,
It
yes.
Covered
Mhm.
everything that was required in the 2022 site.
Correct. Yep. hmm
And now you're saying that this should not cover everything that's required for the 2025 site plan.
Well, yes, I am saying that, I'm saying that the things that were contemplated, the items that were contemplated during the bond review, the original one, for the temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage facility, those are the things that should be considered. And even the things that were considered in Niche's bond review estimate in March of the 2022 site plan, those are the things that really should be contemplated when considering whether some of this bond should be given back to the applicant. That's not the technical correct answer. I would agree with you. I would say if you want to look at it technically and, apply the letter of the law, I would say you'd probably have to wait until all the construction is done, even the contractor's yard. But it's within the board's discretion to consider whether some of the bond should be reduced because of what's not applicable anymore when what was being considered when the $80,000 bond was given.
Okay. And there's still storage outside.
Yes, so there have been notices to remove. We are on that, and those will just take time. So obviously we plan to remove those before we start construction, but notices to terminate any sort of license or lease have already been sent out.
Okay.
And we have to rely on the licensees or lessees to remove their own personal property until we can remove them ourselves.
So you're out of compliance with the 2025 site plan.
Yes. As of right now, but we're making good faith efforts to rectify that.
So the fence that's required for the 2025 isn't a chain link fence, it's a privacy
Privacy.
fence.
You're absolutely right. And the
Is there a-
slats, the mesh has to be replaced for slats, and we know that.
So is there a cost difference?
We can apply one if you'd like. I would say I can Google what the slats, I couldn't make a good faith, well, I could try to make a good faith effort of what the slats would cost for 333 330 feet of fence.
And the other thing is that the easement
Mhm.
needs to be updated.
It does, and it has to be updated before the contractor's yard building receives a certificate of occupancy. Karina and I have discussed it at length, and we know at what point certain things are due.
I think in the decision, the condition ties the, what we were just talking about, ties the occupancy permit for the contractor's yard, the drainage easement, this one, I lost it for a second. So the drainage easement to be updated, I have the decision here. I think the condition says prior.
Oh, so
to-
it.
It's in the new decision, it's just we haven't reached that milestone yet. And then, if I may, can I just make 3 comments? if you're
You
done?
may.
If you're done, okay. So, George already answered one of my questions, which was the status of the parking in the storage, parking and storage in the Res A aisle of the paved parking aisle, right?
Mhm.
So, the original intent of that fence, that was part of the 2022 site plan, was to be along the zone line in order to prevent that parking and storage. But it's understandable that in order to save costs, you would put a fence in where you know it's going in the future. But we had hoped that you would enforce the no parking and storage in the Residence A parking aisle, which is right here. Okay, so here's the zone line. Okay, and the fence was originally supposed to go here, but instead it was installed lower, and you explained why. Right, so I just, for the record, I want to make sure that's understood. And you're trying to work on getting that cleared out so that
Yes.
you're in compliance.
We've sent notices already.
Okay, and I do want to say that George has been working closely with the planning department to answer our questions, respond very quickly. He's made great strides in the relationship with planning. So I appreciate that, George. I think that's a big help. So I guess what you're asking for is the planning board to consider relief despite some of these small discrepancies.
Yes.
Some of, not, they might not be small, but some of the discrepancies in the 2 site plans. You're
Ab-
asking for relief,
Yes.
but you will still provide some bonding in order to cover.
I will. As a matter of fact, while Karina was speaking, I just Googled, black slat privacy fencing, and it seems to be $50 for every 4 feet. And if you apply that to 330 feet of fencing, it comes out to $4,125. And I think that would be a fair ask if the planning board wants to include that in the new bond, so to speak.
What's that total?
$4,125.
I'm just wondering if we need to ask town council how this works, because the previous bond was for the site. And now we're splitting the site, and they have you have the temporary C of O is for the site, not just for that building. I mean, you park.
It's actually,
stuff.
no, it's actually just for the building.
It doesn't say that on
The temp CO should say,
but it
for
doesn't.
the, I wish I had it in front of me, but
Well, so then you,
temp
but-
CO's certificate of occupancies are for buildings. They're not for sites. It's for the occupancy of the building.
Let me clarify one thing, George. So I understand what you're saying
Mhm.
because you're oriented toward the building, but for the planning board's sake, 174-10J of zoning bylaw for site plan compliance is that the bond is put in place for temporary C of O for site compliance. So technically, that bond was supposed to cover anything that wasn't done for site compliance in order to sign off on a certificate of occupancy. So it's a little more intricate than just saying it's for the building, because I believe, I agree with Mimi, it's for the site.
Yes,
So,
I agree with you there. And I previously said, if you want to apply, if you want to be technical and apply the letter of the law, yes, it's for the site. But the spirit of the bond wasn't for the site. It was for temporary certificate of occupancy for the self-storage building. And that temp CO is specific to the self-storage building.
But you bonded everything that needed to be done for the site, on the site plan.
Yes.
So now
Exactly.
you're asking us to ignore the 2025 and just give you back the 2022. I just want to make sure that we're not going into sketchy territory that's going to, it seems that anytime we try and be helpful and give a break to a proponent, the town gets bitten.
You wouldn't be ignoring the 2025 site plan. For now, you will have an opportunity to review the as-built after the contractor's yard building has been built. You
But
will,
there's already a temp on it, and according to our code, that you can't get a temp and you can't get an occupancy permit until you've completed what's required in the site plan, or you bond.
correct, but there
So
is,
this would be in violation of our code.
well, one, there's no temp CO or CO for the contractor's yard building. So that is forthcoming. The temp CO that's issued
Is
is,
for the site, though.
no. The temp CO is for the self-storage facility. There is a distinction. It's the temp CO is for the self-storage building. The point you're making is the site is still not in compliance with the site plan.
Correct.
I agree with you there. It's not, but the temporary CO is specific to the self-storage building. You can have multiple buildings and multiple businesses on the same lot, each of which will have their own certificate of occupancy.
But our code requires that the site be in compliance.
So the bond is for the site.
Yes, but there will still be a bond estimate. I'm not asking for the whole thing. I'm asking for what's really left for the self-storage facility, which is plantings and we'll say the slats, which I equate to about $4,125.
And then there's the septic got moved or something.
No, nothing else has been moved. Septic has not been moved, and that was the point I was making too.
No, for the 2025 plan, isn't it in a different spot?
No, some of the trenches will be decommissioned, but they'll remain. And that's a 2025 site plan.
Right.
There is a distinction. I'm hoping you can see the distinction between the 2022 site plan, which is what the cash bond was provided for, because we needed a temp CO for the self-storage facility. It is specific to the self-storage facility. The 2025 site plan eliminates some of the items that were provided in exchange for bond monies. So in the spirit of separating the two and returning monies that are no longer required per the original review, I'm asking for the difference of the items that are no longer required. The town is protected, I assure you.
And the
Well,
other thing
you have
that,
to listen.
that bothers me is that
Mhm.
you're out of compliance with the new site plan because you have outdoor storage.
Well, I agree, but one would grant us, I'd hope you'd grant us reasonable time to remove those items,
What's reasonable time?
um,
This was approved in July.
there was a 20-day appeal period, of course, and then there's at least a 30-day, like say we did it the day of, there's a 30-day notice we have to give everyone, which we've delivered. We've actually towed some cars away already and asked people to move their personal property. I wish it was
So
just as
when
easy
will
as
it-
us removing some of the items. Those items don't belong to us, unfortunately. Not just yet, so we'll have to go through a little bit of a process, but
But when you were going through the site
Mm-hmm.
plan for the contractor's yard building, you knew that those things had to move.
when, as we all know, I'm not saying it dragged out, but we don't know when it was going to get approved. This is a business at the end of the day, and we have to maximize our revenue where we have the opportunity to do so.
Can I add something, Amy? So just for clarity, George, because that fence that was installed where you future wanted it to be
Mhm.
was supposed to be on that zone line, which would have prohibited that non-compliant parking and storage in there for one thing. So I think he's looking, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but looking for leniency that because you're moving forward with this project, that you're aware that that fence wasn't installed properly and that it caused a non-compliant issue, which you're trying to remedy now.
Yes.
But still hasn't fully be remedied. So the planning board, I would imagine, has a little insecurity about that.
If I may about the fence too, I had just started when this was happening, but I do remember going to a meeting with both Mr. Ferris and Melissa Danza at the site. And Melissa didn't indicate where she wanted the location of the fence to be, but she had indicated that she wanted there to be one fence because there was an issue where Concom wanted, or they could have been double fencing, one stretching the zone line and then one where it's indicated now, which attaches to the detention basin fencing. There was some sort of, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but Melissa
So
had,
what happened was the lot line used to be along the zone line.
Mhm,
And then there was an A&R to change the lot line
yeah.
to where it is now, which is south of the zone line.
The lot line was on the zone line?
Yeah.
So some of the
20
property, which,
The 2022 site plan, the lot line was on the zone line. So the fence was
Hmm.
put, well, according to the 2022 site plan, on another lot.
oh, I see. Okay. But either way, we were just trying to plan for the future. I mean, more than that, we knew where the fence was going to go, and that's why we didn't think it was practical to construct it on the zone line, which ran through the parking lot. Instead, we put up temporary barriers so that no one would park there and use those parking spaces.
Yes.
So what I'm hearing is that our interpretation of the certificate of occupancy is site compliance. Yours is specific to the storage facility. In the spirit, that's what it was.
Yes.
But in site compliance, in my mind, that means that there are still things that are out of compliance that may not be covered. So this list was for 2022, but we now have a 2025 site plan that if we think about it the way the planning board does, that's inclusive of both the self-storage and the contractor's yard, there are likely other things that potentially could be put on a list. And I don't know if that's a niche consulting thing and they come in and they do another evaluation and then you just compare and contrast and you say, okay, maybe we end up reducing it by 50% instead of, the 75 or the 70,000, maybe it's 35,000. But I think what we want to hear is that we don't want to necessarily reduce it all the way down, because now that I've heard kind of what the concerns are, I understand that the law and the interpretation is site compliance. Would it make sense to get a niche consulting to go back through the 2025, put a list of things for site compliance, what would be required for bonding, and then do a compare and contrast between the two?
I don't think that's going to solve anything. I'll tell you why, because they're going to include the construction of the building, which is going to be millions of dollars. See, it defeats the purpose of what we're asking for. And I think if you view it that way, you'll see why I'm asking for the reduction in the bond. And I would love to be fair. I'd love to meet you guys halfway. If you guys feel like for some reason you want to keep more than the 5,000 or 9,000 that I've offered, I'd be willing to, but we think it would be fair if some of the money came back. I would say at the very least, the concrete work that was considered in Niche's bond review, plus it's 3% inflation and 20% contingency. Correct. I think that one's like the most obvious one to remove. And I also do think the fencing is quite obvious too, but I'll leave it to the discretion of the board.
I mean, as I said, I'm willing to kind of barter, right, and reduce the bond, because I agree. I don't think it at this, knowing that you still have to construct the building, and maybe the 10,000-ish, right, 10,000-ish isn't enough, and maybe we do something different. But I guess I would defer back to Karina and Mimi on my preference. But I'm fine with reducing it maybe not to the number that you're asking, but but I agree. I think the concrete pavement and driveway didn't need to be done. So that's like probably what, 48,
It's
46 plus the 3%, 48
and the 20%
Five.
contingency.
and the 20%. So like
I'll see if I can do the math real quick.
20%, 480, 52,000-ish.
So just to reiterate, our zoning code 174-10J says the issuance of an occupancy permit will not be given prior to the satisfactory completion of all elements and conditions of the approved site plan. A temporary occupancy permit may be issued after satisfactory completion of all items essential to public health and safety and sufficient bonding acceptable to the planning board is provided to the town to cover all outstanding items. So that's where we're in this like middle.
Does the language
Area.
say to the extent it affects public health and safety?
It says that a temporary may be issued if those things are all items essential to public health and safety and sufficient bonding acceptable to the planning board to cover all outstanding items.
So I got, when I did the math, taking $46,805, 2 years of 3% inflation plus the 20% contingency, I got $59,586.51. Would the board be comfortable reducing the bond by that much and therefore leaving sufficient bonding? It's going to be 22K-ish. And that's the removal of one item, which is the concrete, which is clearly not, clearly shouldn't be considered anymore. Would that be a fair middle ground?
Mr. Litt, do you have something of wisdom to share?
Tim Litt, Woodland Road. I'm trying to follow this in my head. It seems to me that what's going on is that the 2022 plan is no longer operable. It's been superseded by the 2025 plan. But the certificate of occupancy was issued under the previous plan. So that sort of gets you to the point of saying, well, what are you trying to insure against? Well, let's hypothetically say that the contractor's yard project, which is the 2025 plan, for whatever reason falls apart and never happens. So now we're left with a site that has a building with a temporary certificate of occupancy and nothing to bring the site up to the current plan, which is the 2025 plan. Right? So the whole thing seems to be a question of, in part, timing, and in part, what is the insurance that the current plan will actually come to fruition. Am I following this?
Yes, and you make a great point. And I would say to that, if we did not apply the 2025 site plan right now, you'd have to remove the fencing. Well, you'd have to apply Niche's bond review estimate, which would be $112,000.
But that plan was superseded, right? The only active plan
Correct.
at the moment is the 2025 plan,
Yes.
right? So you have a building that you want to continue to occupy,
Mhm.
but there's also a plan which is on record. And then you have construction and landscaping and everything else that has to happen to bring the 2025 plan to completion.
Yes. I should say this too. We don't have a permanent certificate of occupancy for the self-storage building, and we won't until the entire site is in compliance. But so we're still under the building inspector's purview, we're under the planning board's purview moving forward. I mean, I know everyone here has a watchful eye on that site and is making sure things are done and we're doing them prudently and following the rules. So I think, and I would propose, hearing what I've heard from the board, that we meet come to some sort of middle ground. And I think just removing the one item, which is the concrete work plus its 3%, plus its inflation costs and contingency cost, I think that is something my client would be okay with. And I would ask if the board would be okay with that, leaving the remaining 22 and change or 23 and change with the town.
And when will the outdoor storage be removed from the site?
It's in process. Some of it's already being removed.
But so what's the drop dead date?
I can tell you, we plan on starting construction there late this year or earlier next year. So I would say probably 90 days from this point. I can guarantee all of the stuff will be out. I know, but
No, you have 30-day leases, you
the-
can enforce
the
out
pr-
of
the practical issue we run into is some of that stuff has just been abandoned on our site. So we have to go through a legal process to gain possession of it, gain custody of it, and then remove it ourselves,
Mhm.
which we don't want to do. We bear a cost doing that too, but we want it off the site as well. We want to start construction.
So the bond is tied to a plan that's no longer operative, right?
Correct.
And the work in question is not included in the current plan, right? I mean, the current plan doesn't have a concrete driveway.
Correct.
So no one wants that concrete driveway to ever exist.
Correct.
The open question then is still, how do we make sure that the new plan gets completed? And what happens to the temporary certificate of occupancy in the meantime? I mean, it seems like the certificate of occupancy is tied to the wrong thing because the plan went away.
There's a process for the temp CO, and that is, and I admit it's lapsed, but we have to speak to the building inspector every 90 days, I believe, for him to sign off or extend the CO. I think the last time we left it with Gene, it was kind of like on an automatic basis unless he decided to put an end to it for whatever reason.
So the old site plan was modified. So there's still the self-storage building on the new plan. So it still needs the temporary certificate of occupancy, but there's all different stuff going on in the rest of the,
The question is, what should it be tied to now?
right. New.
I can also say that as this project with the new site plan progresses and the building gets built, as we get closer, they are required to provide as-built for the entire site again, at which time Niche will be consulted to, and they're going out for during construction as well.
Yes.
They've been contracted for that, but they will go out and do, when the as-built are submitted, unless you want to get another a temp certificate of occupancy before you finish, which I don't advise it, but a bond review would be done then. If not, an as-built review is done, and the items that are not completed will be identified at that time. And at that point, they'll either fix those items, the proponent will, or they'll ask for another bond to satisfy a temporary certificate of occupancy until those items are completed.
That's absolutely right.
So I think, that's a risk to the board because they want to make sure that it gets built the way it's supposed to get built. But there is a second review process. So A, Niche's review is going out during construction, and B, there will be an as-built review for items that, to make sure the site is complete. But that still leaves the lingering, there's this overlap of the fence and the non-compliance outside storage, which causes an issue. So the temp C of O that I see online, I believe it has lapsed. There is maybe opportunity to provide some contingency language on its renewal. If we write, if I draft something to the building commissioner as such, that might be another option in addition to some satisfactory bond amount.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest the same thing. Like if, George has said 90 days, we do the 90-day and write some contingency that all of the personal property needs to be off the compliance. And that construction should be started, right? You said
I think
within
that's
90
fair.
days.
Yeah. So you're proposing,
Some language with the building inspector for
That's-
your certificate of
very
temporary.
similar to the bond language, the original
Mhm.
bond language. Which I think is here.
So in the notice of vote, if the planning board does decide to vote to reduce the bond or adjust it, I would prepare another notice of vote that gets filed with the town clerk with the requirements that are put on the bond reduction, which then I would also provide to the building commissioner and request that that gets part of the updated temporary certificate of occupancy, because it is unusual condition. Unusual state we're in.
So return the bonding for the concrete in the driveway and have the 90-day. So is the 90 days tied to returning this, or is it tied to the renewal of the temporary certificate of occupancy, which expired in April of 2024?
I think we've had it renewed since then a couple times, but I think, I think its current status is probably lapsed. But it's only because we had an understanding with the building commissioner that he wasn't gonna come out every 90 days to inspect it because there's nothing, in his eyes, there were no health and safety concerns. So, it was more of just a process issue for him.
I think we should tie it to the temporary certificate of occupancy. Because they're never gonna put that
No.
that in. So if you remove that plus the 3% for 2 years and the 20% contingency, tie it to the temporary occupancy and the initiation of construction or first starts to be able to start. I don't even know if you can do that because now you're in the middle of winter. and
I
it's
wouldn't,
too
if,
cold.
I would not tie it to the construction of the new site plan, but maybe you could tie it to removal of all personal property or exterior storage. I know that was a thing.
Yeah. I think that's where you were going,
Mhm.
the board. Tie it to the, because you said 30 days, but I do understand when you remove other people's property, it's a legal
Correct.
process. So the 90 days, if they can't achieve that, he'll have to come back in order to
Readdress it.
readdress something. We don't have staged progress for temp C of Os typically.
Oh, you got.
George, did you get the 59,586.50?
That's what I got. And 51 cents. No. Fair enough.
That's what it would be reduced by.
Correct.
The $81,108 would be reduced by $59,086.50.
The grand total, the 112,936.41 would be reduced by the.
But we never
59.
we only got 80.
Oh, sorry, yes. Oh, so, okay, so that's another like mathematical challenge, right? So I think, here's what I would say. What was, the 81 was what percentage, the 112, if that was truly what we needed to do, because we still need to get all the landscaping done, right?
Yes, but the landscaping, if you look at Niche's bond review, and I actually stated in my letter, I think it only totaled to about 4,000 something.
Oh, yeah, for 175.33.
it's really not that much. I'll leave it to you guys what to do.
So the bond was what, the 81?
81,108.
81.
Yeah, so
So it leaves
in essence, they never bonded for that
for
concrete.
the right.
And this is what has led me to ask for the 75 back, because we never bonded for the concrete, but the concrete's no longer applicable.
Right.
And the other two things, or the one thing is the fence and the, or actually two things, fence and the gate.
So I think if we did that and we reduced it, it leaves it to 21,521 44 or 50, because we're
Okay.
rounding down, right? So it gives us a little flexibility on what was put in there. I think it's a good faith effort by the planning board, as long as we tie it to the temporary certificate of occupancy with removing the personal property.
Are you including the 4,000 for the landscaping?
Yeah, so it leaves 21,521 on the bond,
Mhm.
and that covers all the landscaping plus some.
So that was the 81,000 minus the 59,000?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's 21,521.50.
Oh, is it $59,086.50?
59,586.50.
59,586. Okay, there's the difference. Okay. So that's where you get the 21,521 and 50 cents.
Correct.
And then add, but that includes the 4,000 for the landscaping.
Yeah, it basically kind of leaves,
Yeah.
you know,
All right, just want to make sure.
because niche wasn't, this was not the estimate with which the bond was put on. This came
Correct.
after for
Yeah.
the separate thing. I mean, that's how I think it makes sense. It's a good faith effort. If not, I'm still unemployed until May, and then I can call you daily.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't be fun, George.
No, I would never put you in that position, don't worry.
So are we all in agreement? Want to make a motion?
I make a motion to release 59,586.50 from the bond for 250 Turnpike Road, subject to stated contingencies as discussed with Attorney Banan.
A second.
Which is the 90-day removal of outdoor storage, is that the contingency?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Dolniak, yes?
Thank you. And just one question, the 90-day clock starts when is it going to be a decision, Karina? Or
A notice of vote.
a notice of vote
It'll say tonight's date.
tonight?
vote,
Okay.
And then we'll
Tick
file it with the
tock.
town-
So it starts right now. You've got it.
we'll
I want to be
fi-
clear.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll get it stamped by the town clerk.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I was going to tell you it was my birthday yesterday, but I didn't want that to influence you.
Happy 21.
Oh, I wish. I wish. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, an update subdivision rules and regulations. Anything new and exciting there, Mr. Bilniak?
Neither new nor exciting. The last where we stand was I had traded some messages and attachments with Mr. Cundiff, the DPW director, about looking at A&R plans. I was also received your comments as well. I think Bill's just been a little bit underwater lately because I did email him in between. He's just like, I got it. I can't get to it right now. So I understood that. And I am still in the process of compiling my review of the 11 or 12 subdivisions that we looked at. to formulate my draft to share with Bill and both Karina. And then once we're all in agreement, then I'll present it. But I've just not found an easy way yet to pull all my thoughts and pictures into one cogent document, but that's where I'm in the middle of that process at the moment. So it's a long way of saying I don't have anything new to offer.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? No. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item 55 plus housing bylaw update. Ms. Houlihan.
Yeah, so I know we received an email that that committee, and I can never remember the
Affordable Housing Trust.
Trust, it's the trust I always forget. Are meeting Thursday to discuss this bylaw. I honestly haven't looked at it, so hopefully we can reconnect next week and then I'll have an update for the next meeting between the two of us.
Perfect. Thank you.
Also, just pointing out that I forwarded an email this evening that the consultant for the Affordable Housing Trust, Community Skills, provided a revised housing production plan to the EOHLC because the EOHLC had a couple of minor comments, and those have been addressed and submitted since last Friday.
Thank you.
So
Perfect.
Karina, what were the comments? I just saw the email, but I didn't get to dig into it. To go back to EOL, just. Oh, on the map? No, that's okay. And can I just add something on the over 55? I had provided a report that was prepared by a person named Amy Dane at, I think, Boston Foundation. I'm not exactly sure of her affiliation, but it's called Exclusionary by Design. And I think it really has, it's considered a landmark report. It really talks about how zoning over the years has really shaped how, some of the zoning that's presently out in the suburbs specifically, where there's sort of unfortunate consequences from, good intentions, let's just say. And over 55, I think, is one of them. The thinking now, as you know, with the state is that over 55 isn't really supported. It's exclusionary to families, and it's unclear to me, I think, if the state's going to do anything about them. But as we know, when we're working through the MBTA communities, they didn't allow over 55. So my question is really, should we be thinking about things in a different way? Is it worth it to really even, make adjustments to the over 55, or should we be thinking more about inclusionary zoning? I was looking at the Westboro, town of Westboro had a special town meeting, I think at the end of October, and they are putting more of their effort into inclusionary zoning. They have a whole new section of their bylaw that's inclusionary. They're not doing anything with over 55. They still have the Willows and they still have other properties, but they're not expanding it. But they are putting their focus on how to keep families together and in which parts of town. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention because I still don't really kind of support the over 55 because I believe it is exclusionary. But we have it. But I kind of feel the same way maybe as Westboro that, maybe we ought to look at something like that, or even maybe thinking about mixed use development or something that is maybe in concert with the over 55. I know there's like little things you want to fix in over 55, and I'm okay with that, but I think it needs to be balanced with how are we going to address, like keeping families together. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. There's a report there, and there's a lot I think that, can be done. And I'd like to start thinking holistically. Maybe it's mixed use, maybe it's more multifamily. Maybe it hopefully it all ties into the affordable conversation, but I don't think the focus should really be on over 55.
Thanks.
And maybe that's something that we think about as I don't know, a to-do or something for next year.
So are you saying that you would prefer it just be a multifamily housing bylaw that there's no age restriction on?
Well, I think so. I mean, I'm very much, I was only one time, I think, I was up at an over 55 community, and there was a teenager putting some recycling in a can. And I saw a person say, go back, you're not supposed to be seen. And that is in my mind of how there's a teenager living there, but couldn't be seen. And that to me is not like how we're living today. We're living and we embrace like families and multi-generational. And I think essentially Southborough should be thinking about how do we create a community that we know, like, kids are living with their parents, grandchildren are living with their grandparents. How do we foster that? What are other towns doing? And, where do we want that zoned? That's what I think we should be working on.
So we did just do MBTA, which is not, no age restrictions on that.
Yeah, I think it's the affordability part. I mean, as I know everybody's heart is in the affordability. We know
There's
there's
10% affordability in that.
Yeah, I just see it as expanding over 55 isn't the only answer. Yeah,
No.
We're not going to hit that cap anyway, but, and we've got a bylaw, maybe we have to.
We
clean
did
it up.
hit the cap, which is why we want to expand.
did hit the
We want
cap.
to get rid of it. We did hit the cap on over 55.
So I sent you, there was an interesting comment that was made at Westborough's town meeting about how they had some, I can't remember what it was right now, but had conversation or something about over 55. And it's just not supported by the state. So I wonder, for example, if we expand our over 55, that's a zoning article, right? Has to be approved by the AG. Are they going to agree to that?
Well, I think they will. The only thing is that the
don't know.
local initiative program, EOHLC doesn't approve those with age restrictions.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But it's not considered discriminatory. There's a carve out for that in both state and federal law for over 55.
Yeah.
Our over 55 was approved by the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, but in what year?
Well, in 1990 or whatever.
Well, I mean, that's where I think things have changed, but it is considered exclusionary. If you can't have your family with you, you're excluded. You can't have a child living with you. I mean, in the same way that they used to, we limited bedrooms because you didn't want children. Now the thinking, I think, is completely opposite. We want families. So I don't see the value in really working on the over 55, although I totally understand that it has a good intent. But I think that is not really how we should be thinking, moving forward. We know we're sitting here and several of us have multi-generations in our house and would qualify for over 55. That means we can't bring our kids with us or our grandkids if it turned out to be that way.
Is that a negative?
Well, for the kid that was recycling, and I was very proud of him and told to go back and hide. That's not how, that's just, it burned in my memory. But I think there's other ways, like what are other towns doing? So I think the inclusionary zoning that Westborough's can't come up with is very interesting. I have to admit, I don't exactly understand it. I didn't really read into it that much. But, maybe there's another thing that we can offer.
So we do have inclusionary zoning. We have our major residential development that requires over 8 units requires affordability.
Yes. Yeah. What do you think, Marnie?
Well, I think I need to read the Amy Dane report. So number one, and then two, I'll just read your comments. I just haven't caught up with a lot of that stuff. And I'll look at it and I'll talk to Ellen once they have their meeting too for the Affordable Housing Trust. I think it's a reasonable thing. I think it's just how is our zoning done in town? Like that might require like an overhaul, which we probably need to do anyway of our zoning period. But I think if we do that, it's like pulling a thread, right? And we've got the entire thing to do. So I mean, I think our zoning just needs a massive overhaul, period. I just don't know where to start, but I think this is, I mean, this is on the table, so let's look at it.
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
agree with you.
fair
I'm
ask.
going to have the same comments when we get to another part of like when tweaking one part of the zoning. I'd prefer to look at kind of holistically and say, where can we be doing better?
So we did do that.
And it got shut down.
If anybody remembers
I do.
the ZAC, there was, took 6 years and it burnt in a ball of flames before it ever hit town meeting.
But we have the document of the output
do.
of it, right?
Yeah.
And I keep making suggestions based on things in that, one of which is planning board be a special permit granting authority for anything that requires a site plan, which I keep getting slapped about, but yeah, so we do have that document and I do refer to it. There are some good things in there.
Qualitatively guessing, how much of that is still valid and has stood the test of time versus how much of it is essentially expired because of the amount of time that's passed?
Well, probably uses all need to be updated throughout the code.
No more night watchmen?
They're still required for some things.
I don't ever remember in a permit for a night watchman. Yeah, so that.
Yep.
So I think updating the uses, and we're working on something that will be next,
Mm.
wouldn't be that bad. But to overhaul the whole code, it's so confusing, even one little change. I mean, the ADU, I was biting my fingernails and it was just updating it to, comply with state law.
Mm.
There's all these, questions and, yeah. So zoning is complicated.
But I think, I mean, actually, I'd like to see the ZAC document and also I had to ask Colleen to find the, what was it, the Judy Barrett?
Yeah, I couldn't find it
Zoning
electric,
advice
but
that-
she's got the copies.
Yeah.
She did Zach.
She did.
She was the consultant.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, good. Yeah, I mean.
She
because-
was the one that said, stop, don't go any further. This is blowing up.
Well, I mean, I do think there's a value for us looking at it now with a different pair of eyes in today's, in today's world and saying, okay, which one do we want to work on, essentially?
Electronic.
I have the hard copy, 3 volumes in the bottom shelf of the bookshelf in my office. And there might be, there must be, and it's probably under the old planning stuff that I saved. So we'll look for the digital version. If not, maybe Colleen can scan it in. Because it's 3 binders and we'll do it maybe in 3 volumes or something like that. But I thought if it's printed in the 3-ring binder, there should be electronic version. And then I can always reach out to, maybe Judy Barrett had a digital copy too. So we'll try and find one. If not, we'll make one. If that's what you want.
Yeah, I think that would be really great.
So I think just the latest copy, and I can give you the draft and the date on it, because I have the latest copy. Because the other, all the previous drafts.
The
I don't
working
think-
spreadsheets where there was comments. The 3 volumes that I have is like, they're spreadsheets with various comments and,
Well, I think those are helpful,
okay,
that show what they're recommending for changes.
all right.
But then there's a final draft.
There is a final draft, okay.
And if nothing else, you can scan it to a PDF, I would think.
Yeah. All right, we'll look for that.
All right. Is that it on over 55? Next item on the agenda, discussion item, industrial park district expanded uses.
No update.
Okay. So that we were in pretty good shape until it got pulled.
Although I will say, Colleen, you mentioned something, ghost kitchen. She mentioned something called a ghost kitchen, which we hadn't included, which are those kitchens where you use a facility and it's used for other baking facilities or cooking facilities come and use it. So I will work on that because I'd never
Like
heard
I-
that.
Sorry, it's like Guy Fieri's Burger Town, runs out of my local Bertucci's. And there's 3 other names that work out of there, but they don't get any customers. There's no traffic. It's just
The
delivery.
kitchen.
And we were talking about things that aren't defined are prohibited. So there's a bunch of more that was the one that came to my head first, but there's more things that are kind of newer forms of commerce that we would probably like to invite and define.
I have a follow-on to that, and I'm not sure why this didn't dawn on me when we're talking about it, but if everything is prohibited except for what we do say is permitted, are we potentially locking out
Opportunities?
opportunities? So could we word it in such a way that says, these are the ones that are permitted, and for any ones that are not listed, could we, like, can they apply? Could they come have a discussion with us? Could they, something like that, where it would not be granted automatically, but at least we're not categorically excluding them?
Well, the problem I see with that is that when you have a building commissioner's interpretation of the code, and a board or a committee may have a totally different interpretation, it may create loopholes and dissension. Is that the right word? For the applicant, there'll be no real answer, even though the building commissioner has that kind of final say on that determination.
But, so with zoning, you call out the uses and everything else is prohibited, and to allow something else would be a use variance, which we don't have.
Anymore.
And use variances too.
It's actually not too hard to come up with a lot of the new things that they've been adding for new commerce, which I always consider new opportunities. You know, might work in a building that has been empty for a while. But I can certainly do some research on that and send it around, see what everybody thinks.
And maybe you can look at what we pulled together, because I think between Alan and I, after the committee met, we pulled a bunch too and added it in. So I think we tried to use, Perplexity and ChatGPT and other zoning codes just to see, like, a lot of, I went to California to see what the heck they're doing in California, because they're very
Because they're
forward
first,
thinking.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah, if anybody's
So
got
I
it,
did
you know.
pull in some uses that way. So I feel like we did a good job
Mhm.
collecting a lot of different things, but Ghost Kitchen was one of the things
Yeah,
I don't
that was a
think.
good
we caught.
Yeah, it was mostly e-commerce kind of things
Yeah.
that
Perfect.
The
TikTok shop.
The other question I have is, do we need an industrial park district? Like, should it be rolled into industrial and we just update all those uses? Because the industrial park was very specific for, like, yeah, big industrial areas and trucking and,
in the 80s, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it was a big, where the computers took over a whole floor.
Yeah, and but I don't think we ever got really anything really industrial parky in the industrial park,
Right, like,
except for, Ken's is, I
Right.
guess.
when I hear industrial park, I think like Bartlett Street in Northborough, where there's the Amazon, the FedEx.
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
retail, Like,
yeah.
that street is made for it, like, there's not a lot of residential around. I just don't even think we have something like that, a road with character like that in our town to even support something like what we would call an industrial park.
Right,
So why do
So
we need
that's-
zoning for it?
yeah. So my question is it just industrial and just get rid of the park, put it into industrial and update all of that?
Well, I'll take a stab at just looking through it and seeing what that would look like, and if it raises any, like, red flags. But yeah, I'm happy to do that and prepare it for the next time around.
Yeah, I think the uses are very similar, right? We were talking that they're pretty overlapping.
Well, so the new ones are very similar to what would be in industrial. Our previous industrial park was very limited.
The only thing is if there's something existing now that was, although that would be covered, right? Because it was approved, pre-existing. Yep.
Non-conforming, yeah.
Pre-existing.
Section, Mass General Laws, 48, Section 6. Anything else on that? No. 2026 Planning Board meeting schedule draft. The next item, discussion item, 2026 Planning Board meeting schedule draft.
So Colleen prepared a new schedule of meetings for next year, trying to avoid some holidays and school vacations, and then some shorter, over the summer, maybe just one meeting a month, July, August. And we usually Colleen usually creates like a average number of meetings that we usually have, but then in the final analysis, there's usually
We have a lot.
6 or 7 more meetings
Goodness.
added along the way. And the town meeting is April
11th.
11th right now, 2025. Does anybody has any comments of,
I have one, or
On.
more of a question. So I see April 11 pre-ATM as in the first column, but the heading says except for April 6, 2026 pre-ATM.
Oh,
Does that mean,
thank you for pointing that out.
okay, it wasn't, I was more making sure I wasn't misunderstanding
They-
something. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only other thing I would bring up is the engineering turnaround for larger projects, which obviously are coming our way. You know, every 2 weeks, we're not going to have an answer back from them. It just doesn't work out that way. So again, I'll sort of present the fact that, if something comes in, we don't have to continue it to the next meeting. It can be the next meeting to give everybody time. And then, it doesn't feel like they're continuing forever and coming to meetings where there's nothing new.
well, that's a tough one too, because we've tried that before, and what happens is the context of the project is always an issue. Like, some will come in and they can go right to the next one and they meet that demand, like Harvard University at the time. They had a team that could respond very quickly.
Hmm.
But Colleen's right, some of these that we've experienced, maybe if there's an effort to like continue it, that the planning board just doesn't continue it to the next meeting.
Well, I
Skip it
think-
to the next month, depending on the context.
And honestly, I think it's more when they have a new submission,
Mhm.
we don't want to talk about it again until we get the engineering report. But if they're coming back with minor changes, then yeah, the next meeting, until it really needs another engineering review. So it wouldn't be consistently, but it would be,
Yeah.
okay, we have a brand new submission we're going to submit to Mitch.
So is it possible to get an opinion from our peer reviewer about what is an example threshold of work that would say, yes, this is sufficient for coming back the next meeting versus this is sufficient for coming back in 2 meetings? I know it's going to be a
From
little bit of a
Mitch?
gray area, but
Yeah, we haven't even really used them that much, so
Yeah, we're
We're
using
kind of
them
at a
more
loss.
now, but there's a lot of factors there.
Mm.
Their schedules, because we're not their only client.
Right.
Right? So if we happen to submit something, and they've been very accommodating too, as Fuss and O'Neill has been. When something comes in and an applicant, really comes across as desperately needing it in, which most of them do, then we make an effort to get it to them right away. Can you expedite? But basically, previously, I have to check now, but they had 2 weeks to even start reviewing so that they can schedule and keep going. I know that was under the Fuss and O'Neill contract.
that was in their contract too, correct?
Yeah, and it may be now too. I have to look more specifically. I thought maybe it's a little bit faster than that now, a little better. But, it's complex because we don't always get a task authorization, a scope and fee right away.
Mhm.
It takes a couple of days to generate that too, depending on when their staff is in and can generate it. And then that has to be given to the applicant, who then provides us a check several days later. And then the check gets deposited and I sign it, and then they get going. So it could be a week
And
and
then
a
after
half.
that, it's 2 more weeks before they really have to touch it after we get the old agreement. So
So
it's,
it would seem like then we should be almost automatically doing it this second meeting out, except for rare occasions when, oh, you just forgot to submit a cover page, and then great, something.
Yeah, and then we get applicants who submit really close to the week before and they often try to submit within the 7 days of the planning board meeting. And we try to accommodate that, but we also try to, draw the line as much as we can.
Well, I think we need to hold the line more on that, the 7 days when someone comes in, brings something in on a Friday morning before the Monday meeting. Because our rules and regulations say that's a constructive continuance. And we've been very accommodating at listening to their presentation, even though we just got something in.
Yeah, because often the applicant will still come into the meeting knowing that the planning board doesn't have to deliberate it, but they'll say, oh, well, we just want to come and let them know what our changes are and orient them. And you try to be nice, right? And you try to help and accommodate that, but sometimes it creates confusion. But it's really hard to say, no, you can't come to the meeting. The planning board is not going to deliberate, period. You can't present because it's just the dynamic of it.
You could send a nice Happy New Year note to our proponents that are typical guests here at this lovely panel and let them know that reinforce this is, if it doesn't arrive within 7 days, we're going to try and run more efficient processes. So we're not staying till 11:30 at night. So we expect these to be in, giving us 7 days. If they're not in, we will not be accommodating you for the next meeting, and that it will be at least 2 meeting in between to allow for our consultants to review. Because I think then it just sets the pace. So I think if we're on board and I'm totally.
But it's right on
fine.
the application, it says.
I
that.
know it is, but how about, we can always just add that little, oh, by the way, here's a bright pink little sticky or whatever postcard that we pre-print with maybe some leftover ARPA funds.
well, and it may be so that the engineering firm, when they get the first review back and you all give their suggestions and what you kind of see going forward, they could make those changes probably pretty quickly, especially a big company like we might see with Costco. But we're not going to get it reviewed. And that's where it happens. That's where we get held up. And I know it frustrates everybody to have lots of continuances.
Also, when it goes beyond the action deadline that's standard for the site plan or the special permit, then, they have to request an extension formally.
Of time to
And
act.
that's when it becomes more like negotiating almost. But the bottom line is the planning board doesn't have to, the planning board has rights to have information and just say,
Well, we can deny the site plan if it's.
Yeah,
not
if they don't want to
completed.
continue, you can
Yeah.
just deny, right?
that's right.
So do we want to okay this schedule now, or do you want more time to go through it, or?
I just have one question. What night was the Super Bowl? I did not look that up, and I usually do.
I have no idea, nor do I care.
February 8th. So
February 9th. Let's see.
February 9th is currently a meeting.
So February 8th would be a late night.
Yeah, but who does that impact? I mean, our applicants, right?
No, it's just us.
Oh, okay. True.
I think we're being selfish.
Sometimes we can be that way.
Oh, we have the day to nap. I mean, work. I mean,
Might not be like you want to work.
I just want to mention a point to Marnie's point about late nights, because we've had some late nights. So now I'm on Mass Planners, and I'm looking at all kinds of things that people are putting out there and getting advice from fellow planning board members, I guess. And so there was this one little thread about how do towns become a little bit more efficient or something like this. One town offered that they only do hearings between 7 and 9 PM, I think. And there was another one that said if they take a vote among the board before they start any hearing, that's going to be after 10 PM. And so that's interesting. Maybe if we had some kind of more stringent rules, something like those, it would force the developers to be a little more succinct and maybe us too. I don't know. I know,
We saw those mass planner forum emails.
I think 7 to 9's a little.
yeah, that's kind of,
Yeah,
I thought that was a little mean, to be honest. But I think the point
but
is,
I don't know I don't remember what town that was, but maybe they have like one application at a time or something.
yeah,
I
I
think
mean, in the
most-
spirit of trying to get people to come to the hearings, you want the neighbors and the residents to come out. 10 o'clock, they're not going to come out. We've seen people walk out the door because it's been hours. So I understand what they're working towards.
It's like your dad used to say, there's nothing good after midnight, after 10. Nobody's really here.
Well, we do have Zoom now, so you can watch in your pajamas and comment if you want.
Right,
So-
the caveat to that was that they also, if they started a public hearing and it was running into past 10, the planning board would decide if they wanted to finish hearing that one that ran over the 10 and then vote, continue it or.
Just
you-
like we do at town meeting.
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
11
I like
o'clock
that.
comes.
Sorry. to interrupt.
So do we want to approve this schedule or do you want more time?
Do we want to change for the Super Bowl? Will people be up? I mean,
I don't think-
Patriots are looking good. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe we do the February 2nd, 16th.
Well, that's only 1 week from
That's
the,
like the next week of the
that's,
26th
there's
meeting.
back-to-back meetings, Monday to Monday. That's a little tough to.
Oh,
And I think that now that we do the hybrid, we used to consider this when it was just in person only, but with hybrid meetings, there's a little.
Yeah,
bit
that's
more
true. We could do that.
flexibility, right?
I'm fine with it.
That's true. You can choose to do any meeting in February.
So you can stay in your pajamas all day
Okay.
after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yep,
I'm
that's
good with
fine.
it.
I'm good with it.
Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, okay with me.
Do we need to vote on this or just we're good?
Take a vote.
It can't hurt to vote, just say, I don't recall that we did in the past. It's been depending on the night and who is here.
I make a motion to approve the Planning Board 2026 meeting dates as proposed on this evening.
Second,
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Belniak, yes?
Planners report.
okay. Manager. Grab it out of here. Okay. Project updates. So we do have on an upcoming meeting in December, we have a developer who's interested in an MBTA Communities project down on Southville. So we've asked him to provide some kind of information, whether a concept or something, in order to present to the planning board his ideas. He wanted to come in and just kind of present it to the planning board before he actually applies. Yeah, it's on Southville in the
It's an
MBTA
MBTA
community.
project.
Yep, there's only one overlay district on Southville for MBTA.
I think you forwarded that email, didn't you?
I did, excuse me. I sent you all an email with a little sketch of where it is.
Can I ask a question? So I have that MBTA list. Are we okay if I send out a communication and then that this individual is going to come into our next meeting?
I think so.
I mean, why not get them involved?
So that's the next question. We have meetings on December 1st and 8th, which are back to back. So I don't know if we still want to move forward with those. I don't think we have any projects coming forward, or we just want to consolidate it into the 8th. Then we'd just have one meeting in December. Yeah,
It would be helpful for us too to like do
Yes.
some catch up because we have to do some organizing.
Okay, so December 1st, cancel, and then have them come in December 8th?
Yeah,
Okay,
and Marnie, if you want to wait till he actually submits something, so that we're not like, if, once he submits something, then he'll officially get Mimi's approval to get on the agenda, because up until then, we really don't have
We have nothing.
concrete,
Okay.
other than verbal
That's what he
discussion.
wants to talk about, but I pushed him to, he really wanted to be here tonight, and it's like, no, they need the 7 days, and you don't even have plans yet, so even a
Concept.
yeah, the concept that's scratched out on a napkin is better than what you have right now, so.
And he
take
knows
your
it has to be
time.
7 days in advance, so if we wait till he actually, until the developer submits something, then it's more concrete.
He would probably benefit from neighbors' early.
Yeah,
comments.
great.
yeah.
And is the idea for him to just share that he is thinking about developing? He doesn't have a concrete plan. He wants to get reactions from both us and neighbors?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, he has an idea, generally speaking for number of units and such, but we won't know till it actually comes in. Because that email was me recapping my conversation with him.
And those lots are long and thin, and again,
There's a river there.
yeah, he needs to know what the perk test says before he can really come up with unit counts and things like that, so.
Okay, that's right.
It's a lesson another proponent could tell him about.
So we're
But I
gonna-
think I would still communicate to the MBTA just that there is an interested party. We're anticipating him coming December 8th,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he still needs to
Yeah.
produce some content.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
They just
I will
like
do
hearing
that.
There's projects coming,
right.
but they like, we're doing something.
or not. Okay, we'll email. MBTA. All right, and so we're canceling December 1st for the next planning board meeting. The next planning board meeting will be December 8th. Okay. I emailed the planning board members today some information from Chris Leroy, tree warden, indicating that he was working on the goal to have a tree planting program for Southborough.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. We already talked about the HPP update, revised in by the Affordable Housing Trust consultant. All right. Let me find my sheet here. Is there anything further on the special town meeting in 2020, the prior special town meeting? Any comments or anything unusual that anybody wants to bring up just as a follow-up? I have nothing. We're waiting to hear.
Greatest town meeting ever. Thank you, Marnie. Great
Yes.
job on ADU. I hope annual town meeting goes like that. And I've never seen a zoning code pass at that margin, ever. Article 1, yeah. Well, Article 1, the 71 to 12. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
So if I can just add, I went to the select board meeting this week and they congratulated each other for a job well done. And I was kind of hoping they might say, and good job to the planning board, but I didn't expect it. Of course, it didn't come, but they thanked each other for the outreach to the Dull Men's Club and to the, citizens and all this. But I really think that the planning board had a lot to do with shaping that zoning article to the point that it was acceptable to everybody, and it showed that it was acceptable to the town. So good job, planning board.
Yes, thank you.
I just have two comments, not questions, more like observations. That was for me, the largest attended town meeting I think I've ever seen. I was also impressed with the number of people that were still there for the final article. It was like 300 something people. So we had 700 and change. And so we lost, call it the 2/3, half, whatever. But the fact that that many people still stuck around was interesting. And the third thing is 3 and A and B is there were a lot of faces I've never seen before, which I think is a testament to, I'm only inferring here, the importance that people were putting on what was in Article 1. However they interpreted it, right or wrong, but it was interesting. And so not only new faces, but new young faces. So So it was just interesting to sit there and look around saying, I've never seen half these people before. So that was it.
Okay.
I think it was the fourth largest town meeting. Yeah.
Are there any ideas yet for what we're going to work towards for the spring 2026 annual town meeting? We have the IP expanded uses. Or the I expanded uses. the 55 plus inclusionary. housing.
Inclusionary or, yeah.
Karina, I wanted to bring back the, either a tree bylaw or scenic road bylaw, a simple version. that al- that, just simple version, but I think that we should have a tree bylaw.
Okay, so you'll be,
We had, I looked back in my notes, I think it was like 21 or 23 or something, put a, asked that we hold a space for it. Obviously, there's a history to it, but, I think it has to be a very simple version that the town can, may take up, so I'd like to try that again.
Do you think it was the complexity of the previously worded ones, not the general appetite?
Well, there was a question that stuck in my mind about what does this give you over mass general law? And so I've been thinking about that for a long time. And so that's, all of what we do aligns with mass general law, but that doesn't mean we don't have town code. But I do personally think it was kind of detailed, and I think people got really hung up in the details. Some people came up to me after and later on and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sink the thing. And it wasn't any one person's comment. But, we are a green community, we're a Tree City USA community, and, we haven't really codified our alignment with Mass General law. I mean, we have a Tree City chapter, a tree chapter, right? But if we're going to try to use, the law to shape this community, to show its importance of trees, how they're helping, increase the value of our homes, increase our downtown, the value of how we envision downtown, and, all these sorts of different things. I think we have to start there. Yeah. So I'd like to try it again.
I was just going to comment on scenic road. I think that's way more complex because we would just pretty much just accept most streets as scenic roads, I think generally, right? It didn't really, even though we have the stone wall and the trees. And I think that the contentiousness on the scenic roads was that there are roads that should not be scenic roads because they do not actually look like a scenic road in the bucolic, country-esque, I don't even know what the right words would be to characterize that. So a scenic road thing, I think, would require literally removing streets from scenic road designation and then maybe potentially putting some on. So I think that would be a really big lift personally.
Yeah, and I think it would be unfortunate. What I've seen, actually, some towns have just, what is the planning board's role in scenic roads? So, public shade trees and stone wall. And they don't even get into, they say the road may be generally considered bucolic or historic or something, but they don't get into the characteristics. And in a lot of the bylaws and of the towns that I'm looking at now, I think Weston and maybe, I don't know, Hopkinton maybe, they just refer to their rules and regs and other handbook for the list of scenic roads. I think the issue with that one is, I think anybody could amend it and say, I want the list of scenic roads put up there so I can remove them. I wouldn't want to see that happen. But so towns are getting away from this list because the list could be updated. So they put that in another document. And yeah, not in bylaw. Yeah.
The budget guru.
Lastly, I forward you information on energy storage systems and the new draft regulations, which are the 225 CMR 29, Department of Energy Resources, Small Clean Energy Infrastructure Facility Siting and Permitting. And then they just came out with draft bylaw for municipalities to use as a guideline. And if you read those two documents, it gives you a pretty good understanding right away, just from those two documents, of what the goals are. The other key point to my email about this was that it said under the 225 CMR 29, section 2905, concurrency and transition periods. Applicants and local governments may comply with the standards and practices established in the CMR or the local government's existing applicable standards practice through or the local government's existing applicable standards practices through November 30th, but not mixed. So ultimately, the standards have to be incorporated no later than December 1st of 2026. So they give you up until November 30th of 2026, and the town can either use their existing bylaw, or they can already start kind of going by the regulations, even though they're still draft. That's what that means. So we have one coming in for 150 Quarterville. They've applied for a special permit for a battery energy storage system, kind of in the front yard of 150 Quarterville. There's like a grassed area. And the special permit is for 2 uses on a lot, and probably 2 structures on the lot, because a structure in a building, if you look at the definitions, they kind of overlap depending on what's stored in them. So my opinion is that they'll need to come to, if we use the current existing bylaw, they'll need to come for a modification to the site plan. Because number one, they're adding an EV space in the area that they're developing. And it's like maybe a 5,000 to 7,000 square foot kind of gravelled area where they'll have several of these units fenced in or whatever, and then an EV station right there in that little driveway to this, which is kind of odd, but that's expanded parking, increased parking on a commercial existing development. It's also an expansion of use of the facility, and it's a change of use. So depending on what the proposal actually is, I made Lara and the ZBA admin and David Williams, the chair, aware. I sent them a similar email today, so they know that, we think it's going to require site plan review, which the new
require site
requirements,
plan.
yeah. it
If
will.
nothing else, it's a modification of a
Existing site
existing
plan.
site.
Yeah, yeah, at least. Okay, so the other thing is, in the new regulations, they tier the megawatt storage of these battery facilities into lowest, medium, and then under 100 megawatts. And this new one coming in is a tier 3, according to the new regs. And they define in the new regulations, I believe, like a special permit is still required and site plan review, even though the goal is to have like a Dover approach for these sightings, but they're aware of the complexities that these battery storage systems can culminate with.
So, so Matt Braccio is coming in on the 8th to discuss this with us. So that's what he does. He oversees solar facilities in these battery storage facilities. So he is well versed. So your homework is to learn about them and come with questions on the 8th.
Does anybody really understand the association with Dover?
I just
Yeah,
don't
so the association with Dover is that solar energy installations are a Dover use. And the battery storage facilities, if they get one whisper of their energy from solar, it's considered
So
under
would
the solar.
this be potentially something we'd like to try to put, have our bylaw ready to go for annual town meeting?
It would not be annual town meeting.
Okay, so it would
I
have to
mean,
be
that would
special.
be, yeah, it's a whole new, and it goes and we can keep our current, special permit process until the end of December. So I think it would be a special town meeting, but definitely something we want to look at, if nothing else, put together regulations for.
I'm gonna start looking at it now. Thank you for sending all that stuff, Karina. Appreciate
Oh,
that.
you're welcome, because there's been a lot of stuff on the mass plan is I've been forwarding you, and we've been storing, and the ZBA's been storing, and it's a lot. And they've had workshops already, but it was like a very quick week because they're in comment period right now, which you can comment on until the end of this week, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere in one of those emails. So I'm sure that they'll be providing more and more workshops as they go forward, like they did with MBTA's. And like I said, Mimi and I met with Stephen Mino, who's our regional coordinator for the Department of Energy Resources, that division for siting and permitting. So we can call him with any questions too. He'd be happy to and answer any of those. Okay, and that's all I have.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 20th, 2025.
I second.
I have a couple things, of course. Line 58, instead of solar installation, it should be battery storage. And then later in that same sentence, inquiry about installing solar, it would be battery storage. And then line 126, it's Matt Probst, Probst.
What line?
126.
Nice catch.
I had a couple things too.
Go ahead.
This is October 20th, right?
Yep.
On line 24, just a typo, it's EOHLC. Just the letters jumbled a little bit there. And then line 122, I think we were referring to the ZBA. So she explained, I think it should say that the ZBA began to have special permit authority because of all the activity going on in the 80s and 90s with the subdivisions. So I think we have to put the word ZBA in there. Is that correct? Yep. Jeannie? I think it's just omitted from the paragraph.
Line 121.
Yeah, so I think
ZBA
she explained that the ZBA began, it's a history of the ZBA and why they took on special permit granting authority for some of the things, because planning board was tied up with subdivisions. Yeah. Just
Oh, yeah, you're right.
just those two things.
Good catch, yeah.
I had one item, line 17. It says shared his notes with the town engineer. I actually shared them with the DPW director. Yep. That was it.
Superintendent.
Say again? Superintendent. thank you.
Superintendent.
Thank you.
I only know because I always correct myself. Did you finalize the vote on that?
No, I update the motion as amended.
I second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Dolniak, yes.
I make a motion to approve the October 27th, 2025 minutes.
And I second. And have anything for that?
I have one thing for that. Line 77, she thought not, but asked town council for an opinion. I would delete that and replace it with town council opined an ADU would not be allowed on condemned property.
Town council opined an ADU would not be allowed on town property.
Yeah, and then at the end of those minutes, add that Ms. Houlihan moved to close the public hearing for highway major retail, seconded by Ms. Demaria, 5-0. We closed both those hearings at the end. And then um, time that they were closed?
It was like 2/3 the way through the meetings. I remember we quietly said.
I had-
Quietly did.
Yeah, I don't think we need a time that we
No,
closed
you don't
them.
need it. No, you just
No,
need an adjournment.
adjournment.
That's all. We have the adjournment time.
I don't think there's.
Oh, Jessica came running up to me, we adjourned it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so we adjourned like at 9, wasn't it? Yeah. So then before the adjournment, then the other, we closed the other public hearing for ADU and Ms. Houlihan moved and seconded by Ms. Demurray 5-0.
5-0?
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then adjourned at 9. Ms. Houlihan moved to adjourn and Mr. Murray seconded 5-0.
Okay. There's also notes on, the notes I took. You
Yes.
can look to that
Yeah,
too,
that
because
was the-
yeah.
Mm.
Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Jamiria, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
Next meeting is December 8th. I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Jamiria, yes.
Bellniak, yes.
Mhm.